What is your question to us?
How can you support a candidate who terrorizes a 73-year-old woman?
I don't know anything about it, and I really don't believe that Mr. Carlesimo is terrorizing a 73-year-old woman.
Well, he's part of the organization that is doing it, and he's being a willing participant in it.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't believe that Mr. Carlesimo would do that. I don't. Whatever you say you have, but I don't believe that. Carlesimo stands for moderation in the city, and that's what we need right now.
And the sound of money.
Well, see,
that was his own quote.
And
he said
you're speaking in reference to what?
At Vassy, and it's actually quoted in the Gondolier, and I've got the video of it up online where he said...
In reference to the airport and income for the airport?
When he says he hears the sound of corporate jets, he hears the sound of money.
Yes, that was in today's paper.
Yes.
I'm glad you read the paper this morning.
Well, I had it on video for a couple of days.
He's talking about the airport being self-sufficient, so it does not have to have money from outside sources.
And he's also taken money from Paul Hollowell, $200, who Paul Hollowell is being sued for the Sunshine Law violations.
Okay, and
so Carlesimo's picky on who he wants to on the Sunshine Law. How do you feel about Carlesimo? Yeah, well,
how do you feel?
You're
about
jumping on McKeon.
No, I'm not.
You're jumping on McKeon.
I think McKeon's a good guy. I'm not jumping on him. I'm saying that McKeon says he, in his very first statement, was that he helped get the last 3 elected, and that he is just like them. He said that. That's a recording of that.
Now
they are named in the Sunshine Law violation.
Now the sign behind you, which is huge. Now this is as a result of some sign wars. Now this is as a result of some sign wars from in front of our place.
We need to get going because we have more signs to put up and more door-to-door walking to do.
Now this sign will be viewed by a small handful of people, but it's painfully outside of my window, and
sure it is.
And yet my website is not an influence.
I'm not putting that on there for you to put on your website. I don't care what you do with your website. Your website, like I said, it's skewed. You don't report everything on everybody. You report what benefits you and the few that you represent. That's what you report. If you were reporting everything, it would be different, but you don't do that. And you know you don't do that.
We make no attempt to do that.
So you openly agree that you report what benefits you and nobody else.
It doesn't benefit me.
It benefits the small group that you represent.
What small group? 66% of the voters that hit the polls last year rather?
Well, how do you know that you represent 66%?
Because they voted the same way.
No. I'm not talking about the 66% that voted for those 3.
Can I ask you one last question?
Sure.
Do you live in the city?
Do I live in the city? No. I work in the city.
Do any of you live in the city?
I'm sorry, you quoted that one person from the fire department lived in the city?
As far as I said, I could only document that one person lived in the city.
Well, since you're so good at researching, why don't you find out how many live in the city? Because you're wrong. And I don't know that even matters.
We're still into single digits.
How do you know? How many people work for the fire department?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I would say probably about...
Why don't you do your research?
I would say probably about 70.
Why don't you do your research? You're wrong again.
It's not an issue that I really care about.
Okay, then why did you bring it up? You said one more question, and that's the question you brought up.
Do any of you live in the city?
I don't feel comfortable telling you where I live, honestly.
Do you live on the planet?
You know what? You don't need to know where I live. I don't feel comfortable telling you any of that information.
Do you live in the Milky Way?
These are silly questions. Are you going to ask anything of importance? That you want to?
Do you live in the city? Do you have a vote? Okay, let me ask you this: are you a registered voter within the city of Venice?
I'm not telling you. You have no.
That makes a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you whether I live here or not, but I'm going to tell you whether I'm a registered voter.
Well, it might tell me that he doesn't.
That is your research techniques that are inaccurate.
And these are evasive questions.
Have a nice day.
These are evasive answers.
Well, because I'm not comfortable with you.
Have a nice day.
Come on over anytime.
No.
We'll have coffee. Thank you, folks.